to another edition of the S&D Podcast, episode 56. Thank you, Division 1.1, for this week's song, Free Show. Dan, what's going on this week?
Not much. A lot of fun with the Olympic hockey. Team USA taking us on a magic run.
Red hot?
Red hot. They're currently undefeated, and they play their arch nemesis, Canada, on Friday afternoon at 12 p.m. I'm going to be on a social media blackout on that day since I will be at work like everybody else. So if you see me, don't say anything to me. I'm going to kind of day. Anyway, we have a fun-packed show this show. We're going to have Andy, NAJ, Graziano.
For a little bit.
Yeah, for a little bit.
He's got another...
But that's what happens when you're in high school and cute girls are around or a couple people want to hang out. We understand. It's okay, AJ. We're still your friend.
We're not cute girls for him to hang out with.
Yeah. Anyway, we have him, and of course we have Keith Black, one of our good friends that helped us start this show. Come on, talk NBA mid-season preview. It was pretty funny last week, not to mention. We didn't realize in our skills competition that was team unit, and we technically won because both of our members for our team were one team. So it was funny because I had you had Trey Burke, and I had what's his face from the Lillard. They were our team.
Oh, what they did for the skill? Oh.
That's why I sent you the text on Saturday. Steve was busy, so he didn't get to watch. So I was like, well, does it count that we won? We both won since they were the team. We didn't really look into that, but that was that. We get to recap that. And tomorrow on Thursday, there is the NBA trade deadline. The Nets already made the move. The Knicks are still rumored for another big move.
Yeah,
God knows what's going to happen. We're definitely going to talk to Keith about that.
But right now, we're going to go play a little more Division 1.1 Freak Show, and we'll be right back with Keith. Welcome back to episode 65 of the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Once again, Division 1.1 with Freak Show. Right now, we're going to welcome in our first guest of the night. From Number Fire, also the founder of Schmuck Sports, of course, our good friend Keith Black. Welcome back, Keith.
Welcome
back,
guys.
Keith.
How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Always.
Too bad we don't have anything really positive to say about the Knicks. But Keith, take it away. What's your current pulse of the New York Knickerbockers?
I mean, bottom line, they're just a bad team. The Bargnani trade basically couldn't have gotten any worse for them. They really have two players right now that are doing much of anything, and that's Carmelo and Tim Hardaway Jr. I gave Melo a hard time a lot, and I still kind of figure, this is kind of his team. This is the team he wanted, and they're just a bad team, but they would be, a bottom 2 or 3 team, I think, without Carmelo Anthony. He's played pretty well, and he's definitely not the reason that they're losing, and neither is Tim Hardaway. I think they have a lot of other issues. Their point guard play is bad. Obviously Amari hasn't been what you want him to be. He's getting there, but he's out tonight. We're taping this on Wednesday night, so he's out against the Pelicans. But he, they're just a bad team, and JR hasn't. I don't think he's been hot in even one game this season. And last year we saw him go months where it seemed like he couldn't miss a shot, and that was. It's hard to go into a season relying on J.R. Smith to be your number 2 scorer, basically, but that's what the Knicks did, and it worked out last year, and it hasn't really worked out for them this year. But it's top to bottom, just a disaster right now, and not having their pick this year is really going to hurt, I think, because I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, even in the really bad East. They could, but, I'm not too optimistic.
Absolutely not. Right now, they are 11 games under 500. Right now, they're at halftime against the Pelicans, so anything can happen. Knowing the Knicks, they lost a tough game last night.
Yeah.
Against the Grizzlies, where they were down big, and they fought their way back. They got the 6-point lead. They blew it away, leaving Mike Miller wide open.
Yeah.
On poor defensive play.
And that's kind of been the story this year, is just losing games that they really should win. And they won. They were able to close games last year. When they had a lead, and even sometimes when they didn't, they were able to close out games well and play well at the end of the game. And that just hasn't been the case. They haven't been able to hit shots. They haven't been able to really do what they needed to do to finish. And it's unfortunate. They can't. There's just nobody besides Melo and really Tim Hardaway Jr. who have really played well, and you can't really be relying on a late round first rounder as your number 2 option.
Yeah, it really is amazing on how I've been saying it for the last couple of weeks, and Steve's been agreeing with me on this, on how dumb the Knicks are as a team defensively in the key moments of a lot of games so far this year. That if they just smarten up and just short up their defense just a little bit, they would have won at least half of those games that they're dragged themselves in this big hole. And it's getting to that point of this, like, how dumb can you be? You guys are playing professional basketball. I know a lot can be pointed to the coach, but at the end of the day, it's the players playing defense, and the coach can tell you so much what to do. It's just the players wanting to do it, and you don't see that a lot of times. It's like every pick the Knicks have, they will switch up on every single pick and roll. And good teams don't do that, and they'll create mismatches when they shouldn't be. Like, what was it the other night? Was it Prigioni on Marc Gasol last night? It was one of them.
Right.
And it's just like, all right, clearly that's not a good mismatch. You should fight through your pick kind of thing. And it's just, I'm just sick and tired of like the same nonsense every game. And it's stupid stuff like that drives me nuts.
And switching can work, but it just isn't going to really work with this team. They're not good enough on defense on a one-on-one level to really be switching every time. And you can't rely on. I mean, when Bargnani was playing, I mean, it was like a total disaster watching him play defense. So to ask him to switch onto a man and like know where he's supposed to be is just, you kind of have to play to hide him on defense if you're going to play him at all. And what he provided on offense was just not sufficient to warrant him being on the floor and having to hide him on defense. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's just, I don't know if it's coaching. Some of the rotations and starting lineups, they don't really seem to make a whole ton of sense. And then my biggest problem is a lot of times these offensive play calls, when they need a bucket, are just Melo stands at the wing and he jab steps a couple times and then shoots. And I don't know why they're not running more sets to try and get him open, but it seems to be what they do every time. And it's not working. It can work. Melo's obviously one of the best shooters in the league, if not the best shooter when there's a man on him. But it's not doing the trick right now, and they really need to reconsider. Okay, is this? The coaching staff needs to reconsider whether this is the right way to go when you need a bucket at the end, and the other team knows you're going to hand it to Carmelo and just let him stand at the wing before shooting a shot. It's rough times right now to be a Knicks fan. They've been worse, but
but how good last year was.
And the expectation. I mean, in terms of the expectation, I mean, Dolan went into the season saying he wanted a championship, and they're not going to make the playoffs in a historically bad Eastern Conference. They're not even going to make the playoffs. So we're going from talking championship to being one of the worst teams ever, right? Yeah. So, it's a tough pill to swallow. And I'm sure Dolan is not happy. And I don't know. I'm surprised he hasn't made a change. at the coaching position, but maybe that'll come in the off season. I bet it. In fact, if I were betting on it, I would bet that it would, but you never know.
Yeah, exactly. with the whole coaching situation, it's just one of those that you could tell the team is clearly lost. They've completely tuned what's in out.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten to that point. But unfortunately, there isn't a better option right now in the wings for the Knicks to put him as the interim coach. I know we have Herb Williams, so we've seen that act times before, but we don't have that, okay, we'll have him coach the remaining of the year kind of thing.
Right.
It's definitely going to be one of those start fresh in the offseason kind of.
Right. I mean, this is not when D'Antoni resigned,
Exactly.
when he was forced to resign, or whatever happened there, where he wound up leaving. They were kind of in the hunt for the playoffs at the time. I think they were in playoff position or just out of it, and Woodson came in and the Knicks made the playoffs for the first time in what felt like forever. Obviously, they didn't do well in those playoffs, but it's a different situation now. I mean, if they fire the coach at this point, that's saying to your fans and that's saying to your team that we don't expect to make the playoffs. And I don't think they can really give up on it at this point because the East is so bad and because they got hot for 2-3 weeks down the stretch. They could sneak their way in, but it's still a long shot. It feels like a long shot to me.
It does feel like a long shot, and I understand exactly what you're talking about. But honestly, with us not having a draft pick, they might as well go all out for this playoff spot. And if we lose in the first round, we lose in the first round kind of thing, because we don't have a playoff spot.
But then...
don't have a draft pick. I apologize.
Right, exactly. So, you're not getting into the lottery here with a chance to get, top 3 pick.
Exactly.
But, no, I agree with you. And plus... they still do have Melo, and Melo can win you some games. And if they get into the playoffs, they'll probably have to face Indiana or Miami. That's not very good for them, but Melo might be able to win you a game or two here or there. It's never going to be a successful season because they're not going to win the NBA championship this year. But they could sneak into the playoffs. I'm just not optimistic that they will.
The trading deadline being on the 20th, we're recording currently on the 19th. The Knicks are rumored to be looking to move him on Shumpert. And what's your take on that, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the talks as of right now are dead. It doesn't mean they're dead for good. They're still, as we're recording this, another 15 or so hours before the trade deadline. It looked like it was originally Shumpert and Felton for Darren Collison and Reggie Bullock, a rookie in L.A. It looked like it was changed. Instead of Bullock, it was going to be Matt Barnes. It looks like it's broken down now. Collison is a backup point guard. He's not going to, they're not going to trade for Darren Collison and then they're going to win a championship here. It basically looks like they would do it to get rid of Raymond Felton's contract. He's got 2 more years after this year, at about between $3.5 and $4 million per season. So that's kind of a no good contract for him to have, especially when he's not really giving you all that much. He's been really, really bad this season. So I don't like the trade because it just seems like you're folding on the Iman Shumpert thing. Basically, so you don't have to pay Raymond Felton anymore. And I know that Felton's not good, but it seems silly to me to get rid of one of your 2 young assets just to lose a bad contract. Felton's not the worst contract on the team that would belong to, I think personally, Andrea Bargnani, but it's not a trade that I really liked. It looks like they're set on getting rid of Iman Shumpert at some point. If he expires, then I would bet they won't re-sign him. He'll go someplace else where he's actually wanted. But we'll see. I think that eventually, excuse me, Iman Shumpert will not be a Knick. Sooner rather than later. I think they'll get rid of him before his contract ends, but I don't know for what. And it won't. I don't think it'll be for Darren Collison.
You got to think they can try and get some draft picks. I think I heard that they don't have a draft pick till 2018.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I mean, I feel like they're still paying off Stephon Marbury and Eddie Curry.
Well, they have, I believe, next year. So they don't have their pick this year. That's from the Melo trade. Next year, I think the Nuggets are able to switch with us, which means 2016 is Bargnani. So they got rid of that. So they don't have their 2016 first rounder. So the first one that they're able to trade is 2018 because you can't trade first round picks 2 years in a row. I think they have their 2017. Don't quote me on that, but they're not able to trade it. I wouldn't want to trade it even if they were able to trade it because they've traded. It seems like we never learned the lesson of that. These first round picks, and we say, "Oh, it's in the future. We'll be good then." They always come back to bite us. They become LaMarcus Aldridge and Joakim Noah, who would look pretty good in blue and orange right now.
Honestly, anybody with a whole heart would be good to watch.
Yeah,
with the Knicks right now.
So I say let's trade Melo and the 2020 first round pick.
Yeah, for what?
For anything. We'll take Eddie Curry back.
No, don't, God, no. Honestly though, I heard how. All right, you know how NBA rumors are. It could honestly be you, me, and Steve for Carmelo Anthony and bag of basketballs, and that will be ESPN. Will go eight right?
Exactly.
Right, so, what was the rumor today about Jeremy Lin? I heard some rumors was Jeremy Lin towards the Knicks, and then later on in the day it was Rondo.
Yeah, I mean
Houston for obviously Lin, I would guess.
I mean, the Knicks need a point guard. I'm sure they called about every point guard in the league. I think that would include Jeremy Lin. I don't know how realistic that was. I don't know that we have any assets that really would interest Houston in any way. I think they're looking to get rid of Ashik and get a stretch four, which I wrote about today. I don't know that we really have something for them in that capacity, but I'm sure they asked about Jeremy Lin, but I'm sure they also asked about every point guard that's might be available in the league. I doubt they asked about Chris Paul, but I'm sure they took a look at everywhere they could. I'm sure that it's a more intriguing story than it sounds more intriguing than I think it actually was in practice.
It really is funny because I do get the Bleacher Report alerts. I'm sure most of us do, the ESPN alerts and stuff like that. And it was the funniest thing yesterday. I got the alert that the Knicks are eager to start talk with Boston to talk about Rondo. Sources from ESPN say. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you even trying to do your job kind of thing? It's like, why are you wasting our time just saying the Knicks are trying to talk? It would be like what I just made the comparison. It would be like us calling the Knicks, say, hey, I can play point guard for the Knicks.
Right.
You want me to play? That's all the talk is. That's essentially what it was, and them trying to make a rumor out of it just is funny.
No, I mean, I feel like Rondo is kind of the point guard that Carmelo wants, and so obviously they're going to do everything they can to make Carmelo happy so that he stays. If that includes kicking the tires and seeing how much it would cost to get Rondo, and seeing whether they could work a 3-team where they could get those assets somewhere else and then turn it around to Boston, or if they can work a multi-team trade where Boston ends up with what they want. I'm sure they did. They
probably left in the
Yeah, I mean, I hear that they want 2 first rounders for Rondo, and
which
I don't
we
know.
don't have.
2020 and 2030.
Yeah,
Bam.
yeah.
There you go. First rounders.
So I'm sure they tried to figure out whatever way they could to get first rounders. They've been trying, and I think that's why it came out today that the Knicks want, if they're going to trade Iman Shumpert, they want a first round pick or to lose Raymond Felton's deal.
Yeah, we'll lose Felton's deal before we get a first round draft.
I mean that's kind of why the Clippers thing had a little bit of legs, but nobody's trading first round picks. Everyone except for the Knicks, I think, realizes how valuable they are. So it's they're not going to have the assets to secure Rondo just yet. Maybe if they can position themselves to make him a legitimate offer in free agency, that would probably be their best bet, in my opinion.
All right, let's switch gears on the whole NBA sort of things.
The Nets made a trade.
The Nets did make a trade, but before we get to the Nets, do you see any big names being moved in the deadline before tomorrow? There's been a lot of rumors going around the league with Kevin Love. I know he poo-pooed that idea today. I would
love for him to be traded to the Lakers after
big time. Yeah.
Is there any other rumors that have some sort of merit that we can be looking forward to tomorrow before 3:00?
I doubt it. I really, teams aren't willing to give up. Lowry would be, I guess it's kind of a big name. I mean, he was in the hunt for the All-Star game, so that's saying something. Maybe you'll see one of these old vet expiring contracts moved. I wrote a little bit about how Dallas has a ton of expirings that they can move. They'll have Marion and Vince Carter, but we're not going to see a superstar moved. I don't think we'll see Rondo moved either. I don't think what Boston wants is really out there for them. So no, I don't think so. I think it'll be we'll see a lot of sixth man to end of the bench type players moved, I think.
Do you think the Knicks should look to move Chandler?
I think they'll try, but he's really fallen off. I'm sure they've made an offer. I'm sure they looked into whether Phoenix would be able to do it. That's one of the big rumors of a team that's looking to upgrade a little bit. They have 4 first rounders, I think, this year, and they have Emeka Okafor's expiring contract. So I think there are always could they package Okafor's expiring and one of the first rounders for a guy like Chandler, or an upgrade at the center position, or an upgrade somewhere on the floor. Pau Gasol is in play. Pau Gasol might be the biggest mover. I doubt he gets moved, but someone who's listening to this after the trade deadline might think I'm an idiot because he did get moved. I could see that happening. That's the big name I could see.
I could see Pau getting moved. I mean, the Lakers
finally
they're going to look to rebuild. I think at this point.
How many times has Pau Gasol been linked to a trade rumor the last 5 years?
It seems like every year, and I think that they gave Kobe a lot of money, and I think they want to put themselves in position to say to Kevin Love, "Hey, we have room for a max here." And I think that they think if they have max money and Kevin Love is on the market, that Kevin Love will be a Laker. It feels like it's a done deal. People around the league sort of seem to believe, oh yeah, he's out of Minnesota as soon as he gets the chance. We'll see, obviously, but yeah, I mean that's why they would do it. They would just try and Shumpert's hurt.
Yep. That's why it does.
Yeah.
There goes.
While we are recording, safe to say Shumpert may not be moved now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I can't really see the Knicks doing anything major here, and no trade is going to make them a championship team. So
we just got.
You mean Darren Collison won't make them a champion?
No.
We just got to stick it out as Knicks fans. We're used to it. it was just so it makes me so angry on how good last season was, and on how crappy this season is. It's just like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know.
Like I'd rather have it been a gradual kind of thing, not to be like the second best team in the East.
Yeah,
and then eventually losing to the Pacers, which we know is a solid team now.
Mm-hmm. No, they're a really good team, and
I think they're one player away to be able to compete with the Heat.
Yeah, and I don't know if they have the assets to necessarily make a move, but
they probably don't. But they trust for what.
But I mean, they had would they push the Heat to 6 or 7 last year?
It was 7 last year. They were just on that high last year, and the Heat didn't take them serious last year. Let's be real.
Right, but Indiana's fighting for home court. They want home court advantage, and if they can take the Heat to a 7th game again, and it's in Indiana, all of a sudden, that sort of changes things. But we'll see. I like Indiana's team. I like the way they play. They're a good unit, but I don't know if they have the assets to get another difference maker. I think they're going to have to win with what they have. They'll try and move Granger, I'm sure, but I don't know that they can get it done.
Okay, my question to you involves the Thunder. Now, they've been playing very well without Westbrook this year. With his big contract, would you look to move him during the offseason if you don't win a championship?
I wouldn't, but I'm sure that there are a lot of people who would disagree with me, in part because of the way Reggie Jackson has played. Reggie Jackson's been a really good player for them, and they play the same position. So you got Kevin Durant, you got some people's MVP. As of right now, he's some people's MVP. Sorry. But you got to try and win with him, and you got to try to surround him with the best players possible. And they made a mistake doing the James Harden trade. It didn't work out for them. They should have kept him. If they repeat the same mistake, then that says a lot about their management and how much they're willing to really invest in this team and whether they're serious about winning. I think that they are serious about winning, and I don't think they'll move him. I wouldn't try and move him. If I'm Oklahoma City, I'm trying to win some championships here. And even if it's not next year, they're both young guys, and you've got a good core that's hard to come by in this league.
Absolutely. They're in a win it now. Just the way Kevin Durant's playing this year is just a whole nother level. It's really awesome to see how.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the preview show I said that the MVP is LeBron and everybody else, but Kevin Durant's making me kind of look a little stupid here because he's making a run for it, and he's going to make a run for it. I don't know if he'll win it, but he's got a shot.
All right, let's talk about there is another New York team, even though they're called by Brooklyn. Do you think that the Brooklyn Nets are going to make a run to win the division before it's all said and done?
I do. They have the vets to make that kind of run. It's more that I don't necessarily trust Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep it up, and the Nets have players that they'll be able to lead this team when they need it. They'll get wins that they need to get down the stretch. Jason Kidd has gotten better at coaching since the year started, and they're playing scrappy. They're playing hard, and they're playing well even without Lopez. So I think that the Nets will probably. I would guess they would win the division. I mean, I know they're out of it right now, but I don't trust Toronto to keep it up in the long run, and I do trust the Nets vets to get some big wins.
Okay, they also made a deal, the Nets. Earlier today, we're recording on Wednesday the 19th. Jason Terry and Reggie Evans to Sacramento for Marcus Thornton.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, two net guys going to Sacramento's bench to one guy from the Kings going to the Nets bench.
Yeah, I mean, no, he's not a difference maker, but it's crazy to me how much money they're spending with the tax. I mean, this team is going to spend over $200 million. And I mean, it doesn't matter. It's just money to Prokhorov. He doesn't care. He makes that while he's asleep. So, he doesn't care. I don't think it makes much of a difference on the floor. Maybe it makes him a little better. Thornton's got potential. He hasn't really lived up to it. And I think you kind of know what you have with Terry and Evans. I like Evans. He's a scrappy guy, but I don't think neither side of the trade really moves the needle in any meaningful direction for me.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Jason Terry's a good cheerleader, a good team guy, and Evans is a good scrappy player that they get off the bench for a couple minutes for rebounds and stuff. But other than that, it's a pretty even trade, like you said. It's just a bench guy trade for two bench guys to loosen up the caps, and they get to keep him for another year because he's not a free agent until next year. So it keeps them having another guy for their roster for another year. So it's going to be interesting. It's just one of those moves that they wanted to make because they were just rotting on the bench, Rajay Evans and Jason Terry. So they were just giving them a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, it's not a difference making trade, but I think they get a little bit younger here and they get a little bit. They grow a little bit of their potential. I think that maybe they're worried about being too old and breaking down, so they get a little bit younger. But that's about it.
Of course, they're in a win it now mentality. Granted, that
they have to win it now.
So it's either now or never for them, and I think they're gonna finally. It's not because of them. It's gonna be because of the Raptors.
Right. That's kind of how I feel. But they've been playing better.
They've been playing a lot much better.
Exactly. So
Joe Johnson's been playing good with the All-Star break and everything like that. It's really about D-Will at the end of the day.
Yeah, they need D-Will to kind of be D-Will here. He makes a lot of money. Joe Johnson makes a lot of money, and they need him to kind of earn it. But they've been playing well, so we'll see.
Keith, at the real K Black 25.
That's me.
Follow him at Number Fire as well.
Number Fire, definitely check that out. Good read for sites. And can you play daily fantasy sports on that as well?
No, you can buy a. We do have daily advice that goes up for your daily fantasy leagues. So if you play on any of the major sites, FanDuel, DraftKings, Draft Street, I personally play on DraftKings, but I know a lot of people that play on the other sites as well. We have advice every single day about what we advise, and it's been a very, very successful moneymaker for a lot of people. So if that's what you're into, check it out. You will not be disappointed.
All right. Thanks, Keith.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
SND Podcast is in no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Basketball Association or any of its affiliates.
On the ice or in the stands, rep your team with the new Sons of Hockey apparel, a brand new design by a longtime player, coach, and diehard hockey fan. Check out their 2014 lineup, available in men's and women's for all you hockey supporters. Follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Sons of Hockey, or look for Sons of Hockey Clothing on Facebook. Come join the Sons of Hockey family and show the world why hockey is the best sport on the planet.
Welcome back to episode 65 of the S&D Podcast Show on the Schmuck Sports Network. Once again, that was Division 1.1 with Freak Show this week's song. Dan, now it's time to welcome back the Graziano boys. What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying Olympic hockey as much as we are.
I was enjoying it until today.
Well, yeah. Well, if you've been living under a rock, unfortunately, John Tavares. Did they say exactly what the extent
possibly multiple torn ligaments?
That is Islander luck. Oh my God.
And basically, when it first happened, it looked pretty innocent. He was going down the right wing boards and got hit, and you kind of saw his left knee flex a little bit. Didn't look that bad, but he went off under his own power. But then again, so did Erik Karlsson after getting his Achilles slashed, so that doesn't really mean much. And then Bob McKenzie tweeted about an hour ago that everyone in Sochi who he's talked to has a feeling that it's pretty significant, which is leading people to believe. I want to be clear with that. It's leading people to believe that it could be multiple ligament damage. And as we've seen, if you're talking about a tear, especially ACL, MCL, LCL tears, I don't want to get ahead of myself because obviously we're not going to have a diagnosis till tomorrow, but that's usually puts you in the range of a 10 to 12 month recovery, as we've seen in the NFL. So it's a pretty significant injury. I've never seen an injury where the initial diagnosis is less than the final diagnosis. Let me just say that. So the fact that they're saying it's bad before even the final diagnosis and MRI come out is certainly not a good sign for the Islanders.
Yeah, that's never good. And it always happens on the most innocent plays, it seems to be.
Yeah.
And it's just sad to see, especially someone with that young a talent. And we all know how much he wanted to win the gold medal for Team Canada this year, on top of coming back to the Islanders and finishing the season strong. That you just feel bad for those type of injuries, and you wish, since it's a 2-week block period, you just wish that all the players were wrapped up in bubble wrap and everything would be taken care of. Unfortunately, not to an extreme extent, but the Rangers also do have an injury. Obviously, not as extreme as John Tavares, but Matt Zuccarello broke his hand as well. What's your take on that, AJ?
Well, I mean, obviously, I didn't see the injury because, let's be honest, I mean, Norway isn't that popular over here in the States. But
Are you kidding? I watched every Norway game.
You weren't up at 3 a.m. to watch Norway play? What kind of fan are you?
But yeah, I mean, I heard that he has a fracture in his finger. He talked to doctors back in Russia, and they said he could be out up to 3 weeks. But this Friday, he's meeting with the Ranger doctors, so hopefully the diagnosis will be a little less. I'm hoping maybe a week, 2 weeks tops. But obviously that's a big loss for the Rangers. I mean, I've always liked Zuccarello. He's got great vision on the ice. He can make things happen offensively. And obviously that's been one of the Rangers' weaknesses over the past couple of years. So, I mean, hopefully it's not long-term because obviously if the Rangers are without Zuccarello for 3 weeks or even a month, then I think it's going to be very tough for them to find offense.
Honestly,
Zuccarello's injury, sorry, Dan, rather. Zuccarello's injury is the same as Franz Nielsen. It's a non-displaced hand fracture. So, I mean, if you're going to fracture your hand, that's probably the best diagnosis to get, that it's non-displaced. So
you bring up Franz, Andy. Do you think the NHL should take on the shootout rules of the Olympics, and so the Islanders could just use Franz over and over again?
Talking to me in the past, you know that I'm not a big fan of the shootout to begin with. I've never liked it. I in fact, was at the Islanders' opening game this year at the Rock in New Jersey. Steve, remember we met in between periods there. I actually left when the shootout started. I won't even if I'm there as a fan, I won't stick around. If I'm there as media, you'll actually see me head down from the press box and go into the hallway where the Islanders enter their locker room prior to the shootout even starting. That's how much I dislike them. I won't even stay and watch them. So it's a glorified gimmick. Yes, it's brought fans in. It's kept fan interest in that part of the game. But I just, the evolution of the 3-point game, boys, is really what has made coming back from a points deficit in the standings so much more difficult now. Where, if you're 5, 6, 7, 8 points out, at this point in the season, it's so much more difficult to climb back with those 3-point games.
I agree with him. It is very difficult, and that's exactly why the Islander Nation, Isles Twitter and Isles Nation, have no hope for the rest of the season, because they're just at that point where it's just so far back.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no shot.
Not going to happen. I put the Islanders' chances, like Dan just said, at no shot. And I'm trying, I'm usually Mr. Optimistic and everything, but there's just no way.
Well, if you pay attention to Isles Twitter after the Canada game today, we're actually stealing the goalie from the We're going to kidnap him.
That was one performance. I wouldn't make too much out of it. Yes, it was a great performance, an outstanding performance even.
Yeah, he shut down the top offense. I mean,
it was one performance. Canada, for all the shots they fired, are still not on all cylinders in terms of their line combinations. They haven't gelled the way Mike Babcock had hoped, and I don't like their chances on Friday, guys. And I'm not saying that just because I'm an American and I'm rooting hard for the U.S. Obviously, I like the way the U.S. is gelled as a team rather than a bunch of individuals. Don't forget, too, Canada's gotten, 70% of their scoring from defensemen?
Yeah. Doughty and Weber have, I think, most of their goals.
Can't hope for that to continue,
And the U.S. has been getting it from everybody.
Right, exactly.
And it's honestly, not to bring back the shootout again, since you killed my next question, Andy. But I think the NHL should implement that. It's a lot more fun to watch to have the same three guys to go, opposed to having the fourth line goon. I know that never happens every now and then. Rarely happens, but it would be cool to see that you have those three guys and you have the choice to go. It would be a lot more fun, especially since you get to see, bad example now, but the first player I have at the top of my head is John Tavares. It would be like what the Russians did. I wouldn't say go with TJ Oshie every single play, but
two guys basically.
Two guys, what they did with Kovalchuk and Datsuk.
Well, with that, it would be take out the guy who basically turned the shootout, in my view, into a big thing in the NHL was the defenseman from the Rangers, Malik.
Malik, yeah.
We all remember that shootout goal.
Yeah. It's the Capitals, actually.
Yeah.
The famous Malik, right?
Yeah.
AJ was still a baby in diapers when that happened. Sad to see.
15th round, legs.
15th round, right?
Yeah.
He remembers that. Good for him.
Yeah, he was still in diapers.
That was probably his first memory.
Let me tell you something. This kid's got a memory on him. For all the hockey he's watched at a young age, he's got quite the memory on him. He remembers a lot of stuff.
It's like us with football.
Oh, my God, yeah. I'll know what Tiki Barber farted in the third quarter of 2005.
Now that's impressive. That's very impressive.
And he'll be able to tell you what he ate, too.
Yeah, he ate Mexican that day. on that being so, let's take us, AJ, since Andy, of course, is doing all the talking. Typical. By the way. Miss you, Andy. AJ, so what's your preview for USA-Canada rematch from the last Olympics? What are you thinking?
Well, to kind of mimic off what my dad said, I think it's gonna be tough for Canada to take on a USA team that, like he said, has gelled together. They've got USA. They got total different style of players up front. They got Suter back on D. They got McDonald. I'm not trying to sound like a homer, but
don't sound like a homer. He's been playing awesome lately.
He even broke the glass today.
He actually sniped a goal on Sunday. He never does that. Come on, give credit where credit due.
But yeah, I mean,
your own horn.
McDonough back on D. I think McDonough's turning into one of perhaps the best defensemen in the NHL. But I mean, up front for the USA, they've got just a total different style of players. I mean, you've got players like David Backes and Ryan Callahan who are gritty and forecheck and aren't afraid to get physical. But then you've got guys like Zach Parise and Patrick Kane who are kind of like the flashier guys, so, to bring the offensive flair and the stuff that you really need. I think USA has, and I think that it'll be very different from 2010 in Vancouver. I think USA will take this game.
Yeah, and you mentioned the aforementioned beef line today. Backus mentioned that he's the beef. Dustin Brown is the pig, and Ryan Callahan is the chicken.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird comment from Backus, but I like what Backus said today more so. David Backes has quickly endeared himself to a lot of not just American fans, but a lot of hockey fans. The comment he made today also was, this team's got a lot of really great players on it, and then there's me. And then, kind of downplaying his significance to the club, which is obviously wrong, but he's kind of being modest there. But, I don't know if everyone knows, but David Backes has also started kind of like a foundation out of Sochi with other members of not only different sports, but even different countries.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
About rescuing a majority of the stray dogs that are around Sochi.
I heard about that.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. Wow.
Like a 4 to 6 week process where they're actually going to be able to bring those dogs back to the States and find them homes. So David Backus has, like I said, really endeared himself to a lot more than just American hockey fans with his humanitarian efforts as well. So really a huge shout out to David Backus and what he's trying to do over there besides, win a gold medal for the U.S. Don't discount that other game, too. Finland, Sweden, Henrik Lundqvist is playing on
6 rematch.
But let me tell you, Finland is not – I tweeted this before the Finland-Russia game that, Finland's no pushover, man. That's a team that can really upset. So I wouldn't think that Sweden is such a definitive lock coming into that game. That game's going to be the early morning game on Friday at 7:30. And, that could be a very surprising result. That game's going to be a lot closer than some might think.
Like I said, it's interesting because both semifinal games are the last 2 gold medal games.
Yeah,
That's correct.
So they're just rematches of the last 2 gold medal games. So it should be a lot of fun. I mean, Andy, what was your take on Timu going up to Sidney Crosby the other day and yelling at him for diving?
He yelled at him for diving, which obviously we all know Crosby does. Let's not pull any punches here and try to make believe that he doesn't. Sidney Crosby is the best hockey player in the world. I don't think there's any argument there. He would be even more admired if he stayed on his feet more. But at the same standpoint, I don't know of many professional athletes that don't try to sell calls for their teams and get their teams on the power play. I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, JT's done it this year. Let's be honest, guys. I've seen personally Tavares do it this year on more than one occasion. So I just think that Sid is so high profile that it just gets magnified so much when he does it. I think Solani showing that kind of emotion is really what makes the Olympics great. The national competition, the sidebars of one country versus another and the history of those 2 competing countries, I think is what makes the Olympics such an intriguing sport, especially in ice hockey. I mean, you don't have those kind of sidebars in skiing or luge or snowboarding, but in hockey, you have a lot that goes into these games more than just what seems to be on the surface.
We're talking about the Olympics here with Andy Graziano and AJ Graziano. AJ, my question to you is, rumor is with 2018, of course, the NHL doesn't want the players to go. Now, the Rangers may have lost Zuccarello for a couple of weeks, like we said. Tavares, we're still not we're unsure, of course, the length, but could be a while, is the rumors. Lundqvist almost got hurt the other day in practice. They were practicing, and Carlson ended up sliding into him, and there was a collision in the net. What's your take on the players going to the Olympics, AJ?
Well, obviously, in the Olympics, NHL players kind of bring like the superstar kind of mentality and all that, like the players that are looked up to by everybody. But I think that if they strayed away from that in 2018, like you said, if they strayed away from NHL players and I think they should bring like college players back into the Olympics, bring young guys in that haven't really had experience, like playing as a team and trying to win a gold medal for your country. In 1980, nobody expected the USA, a bunch of ragtag college kids, to beat the Soviet Union and then go on to win the gold medal. So I think it kind of brings the parity back if you bring college players back into the Olympics. It brings a kind of like surreal feeling because the players have never experienced anything like that before.
Well, my view is if they did decide to take the NHLers out, would be what they should do is every 4 years, instead of having the World Juniors where they have all those college kids getting together, put those guys on the ice in the Olympics.
Yeah, didn't Andy mention that a few weeks ago? Listening on his Dump and Chase podcast.
Of course.
For the plug. I think Andy said that. Didn't you say that a few weeks ago, Andy?
Yeah, we talked about it on the DNC podcast. Basically, my opinion is the World Juniors, come on, nobody in the U.S. cares about the World Juniors. It's a huge Canadian amateur tournament. It's a great tournament, in my opinion, but nobody in the States cares about it. I think the significance of U.S.-Russia in 1980 would have been so much less if that had been a team of pros, if that had been a superstar team like we have today with the pros going to the games. My opinion, though, would be not cut out the NHLers totally. My colleague Rich Diaz brought up a very good point. Maybe go, NHLers under the age of 22 are eligible. Like make it a U22 tournament where even if you're in the NHL but you're under 22, you can play in the Olympics. Of course, what that would create is mostly teams of amateurs and college players, but you'd still have your smattering of NHL experience in there on the national clubs. So, that would definitely be an interesting sidebar to maybe bring some of that back.
I do agree with him on that one.
I agree with him on that, but we all know at the end of the day it's all about profit and money and viewerships. I don't see that happening anytime soon, especially on how hockey games have been creating so much buzz. Because honestly, other than the hockey, you hear no one really talking about the Olympics, other than Bob Costas' eye. Thank God he's doing better, and thank God Matt Zuccarello is coming home, because if he had the Russian doctors after watching what Bob Costas went through, he'd have another arm coming out of his other limb with all of those things going on right now.
Yeah, Costas, right?
But then again, right now, for all we know, Poulin is trying to kill everybody there.
Putin? Yeah, I'm shocked. I'm shocked there wasn't a firing squad after today. But
yeah, the Russian team's not back yet, so they. I wouldn't go too far with what Vladimir's plans are for them yet. They might be locked in a Russian prison somewhere with just their jock straps on.
Before we move forward, AJ, thank you for joining us. I know he had another engagement that he had to take care of tonight, and he had to step away for us for the night. So we're here with Andy. So Andy,
yep.
Now you have to deal with us.
Not a problem.
Let's talk a little Islanders. Is it safe to say we should brace ourselves for Strom's the savior again?
Yeah, I think without a doubt. I mean,
Ryan Strome.
To kind of be Captain Obvious here, I think Ryan Strome will definitely now obviously be back with the club. I think you might even see Anders Lee. I think you'll see Matt Donovan, obviously. I'm not so sure about Johan Sundstrom. I think he stays. I think Anders Nielsen stays. I think Scott Mayfield stays. I'm hoping to see Griffin Reinhardt at the end of the year when his junior season is over for maybe an 8-game tryout, just so you don't burn a year on his entry-level contract. Run him out there for 8 games. He had an impressive camp.
Might as well.
But yeah, I think you're looking at Brock Nelson and Strome as your top 2 centers with Tavares and Nielsen out.
Well, I said that the first line, I was talking to our good friend T-Bone on Twitter, and I said our first line should be Poso centering Vanek and Eric Bolton. But that's just my
Easy, Eric Bolton.
Okay.
Eric Bolton's going to play for Canada because Tavares is out.
All kidding aside, with the injury of Tavares and everything like that, do you think now moving Thomas Vanek is definitely going to happen now? Or
yeah, I think there's no.
It doesn't even matter.
Yeah, there's no question you have to move Thomas Vanek. You also have to use Andrew McDonald. Now, moving Andrew McDonald is great for Matt Donovan because it basically guarantees him a roster spot through the end of the year. When Matt got sent down the second time, that's exactly what Garth had told him. It's not performance related. We just have to find a spot for you, is what Garth's comments were to Matt. So Andrew McDonald's definitely going to get moved. That's going to open up that spot. And you just can't take the risk on not moving Vanek. You have to try to recoup the assets that you gave up for him in the Matt Molson trade. And with obviously his desire to not sign an extension at this point with the Islanders and test unrestricted free agency, most say for a shot to play with the Wild in his wife's hometown of Minnesota. I don't think the Tavares injury changes those plans one bit.
Okay, fair enough. And the Islanders, since honestly, even though the trade looks like, if they do trade Thomas Vanek, the trade's still a push because they will most likely get a top draft pick or a top prospect for him. So at the end of the day, the draft pick that they lost could end up very, very well being a nice first-round draft pick. So it's all break out even.
Yeah, it's going to be a lower round pick. It's not going to be a top 5 pick, but Snow's starting asking price for Vanek is a first-round pick and an NHL-ready level prospect. That's his starting price for Vanek. So.
And that seems pretty fair, considering on how much of a talent Vanek is on the offensive side of the game.
Basically, the way I see it is they'll probably be able to protect this year's pick, is what they're going to do. Keep this year's pick, and then try and get a first-rounder for next year.
Gotcha.
Possibly.
To make up for the one that they're going to lose to Buffalo.
Don't forget, this year's draft is rated a lot weaker than next year's. So that's something to consider for Snow also. I think the toughest thing is going to be trying to find a team that is willing to pay that price for a obvious rental. Unless you're dealing him to Minnesota, any team that gets him is going to really face a risk of getting him to re-sign in the summer.
How much would that team owe right now?
What do you mean?
Like how much would they have to pay for the rest of the season? Is what I'm trying to say.
Well,
just for like a rental, if that one team needs that one guy for Stanley.
Unless the Islanders turn around and offer him to a team that's looking for a rental, and in exchange for the team taking the risk for that rental, the Islanders agree to pick up some of Vanek's salary, which you can now in the NHL with trading. You were never able to do that before. With the new CBA, you can now retain salary in trades. So it's like what the Islanders did with the Regan Bouchard trade. They could turn around and say, okay, we understand you're taking this, you're giving us a good package for a risk in terms of a rental on your part. We'll pay half of his salary for the rest of the year. I think that might get some teams to be more willing to make that kind of trade with the Islanders than not.
I think that would be the right way to go, especially considering that some teams, there's always that one team that will overprice a certain value because they know it's win now mentality kind of thing.
Never underestimate a general manager's ability to overpay.
Exactly.
Right.
There's always one crazy GM that will push in all the chips now and go for it.
Hit the right speed dial button.
All it takes is one.
Right. Exactly.
Someone's going to offer AMAC close to $5 million.
Oh, no doubt about it.
It just won't be the Islanders because they're not paying him.
Right.
Can you see AMAC coming back in the $4 million range?
No. I think he's pretty set. I mean, Snow offered him 4 years at 16, which was way more than I would have went even, and he said no to that. So he's clearly pricing himself in that 4.5 to 5 range. I don't think Snow's budging from the 4.16. I think that's the best AMAC will get from Snow. And personally, with the defense that we have ready to come up in the system, I think you have to you have to say goodbye to him at this point.
I mean, they basically paid for their number one defenseman basically nothing.
Right.
For the past 4 years, 5 years?
Very value-driven contract. What the Islanders got out of AMAC, I know he's played horrible this year. He's had a really tough season, primarily because he was thrust into a role that he was not prepared and not able to do. But the reality is that for the salary they were paying AMAC, they got a lot of value out of him and a lot of minutes out of him.
Andy, what's your take on Nabby? Is he going to be around the rest of the season?
My opinion on, I think the Islanders in the summer go out and get a goaltender. I think along the likes of maybe Jonas Hiller, Yaroslav Halak, somebody like that. I think they re-signed, this is just my opinion, I think they re-signed Nabokov to a 1-year bridge deal to be a backup and a mentor in the locker room. He is beloved in the room. And I don't see Kevin Poulin with a future on this team.
Okay. What a change of view from the beginning of the year.
It is. And, sometimes I was big on Kevin Poulin coming into the season, and I wouldn't say that I overestimated him, and maybe it was more hopeful. I liked what I saw in terms of raw skill, but, it's clear that he's just not able to carry the load as a number one, and the Islanders see that. And, through the course of the season, things change, not only from a journalist perspective, but from a management perspective as well. And that's what we're seeing in the evaluations of Poulin as we went along this season.
Okay. Since we were going to ask these questions to AJ, we're going to go over to you, because this was going to be the game we were going to play. We're going to mess around a little.
All right.
We're going to have you be the Ranger GM and have him be the Islander GM.
Okay.
So, Ryan Callahan.
Well, Ryan Callahan, I can't see him in any other jersey but a Ranger jersey. I just can't. As much as I would love to fantasize about him being an Islander, I'd love to have him. I still think he settles somewhere in the $4.5 to $5 million per year range on a long-term contract with the Rangers. I think that gets it done. I think his initial $7 million a year request is just shooting for the moon. You always make your worst offer first, and I think ultimately they come to terms. I can't see Sather dealing him at all.
See, this is my opinion. You know me. I love Ryan Callahan.
Yep.
He's one of my favorite NHL players. But honestly, don't you see a lot of minus the 20-goal seasons?
Yep.
In Casey Cizikas?
No.
He never takes a shift off.
Well, Casey is a hard worker. He's obviously very respected for that effort that he puts out on the fourth line. But I don't think Cizikas' mentality is ever going to be enough to score 20 goals.
Well, no, that's not the part I was comparing. I was comparing him to the every shift.
Yeah, I think Callahan is more of a leader. Let me say, I don't see Cizikas as a captain or assistant captain type. So that's where I think the difference lies between Callahan and Cizikas. I think Callahan's more of a leader. I mean, he's obviously captained an NHL club, as we've seen, and I think there is a lot more value to that, in my opinion.
Okay. By the way, Nystrom Award is actually the voting open today for the Nystrom Award.
Yep.
For the hardest worker.
Who would be
Casey?
Casey?
I
Okay.
say Casey because of the fact that he never takes a shift off. He may not put up the numbers.
And he's been hurt a lot this year. I heard a few
Yeah.
times this year as well.
Yeah,
Right?
I think Cizikas is probably the front runner for me too.
I mean, Matt Martin's won it the past 2 years, but either one of those guys, they both.
And the Islander of the Year has to go to Kyle Poso.
Yeah. Well, now we'll see what Kyle's really made of, right? We'll see him hit all the speculation that he can't play without Tavares, so he'll quiet that the remainder of these last 23 games.
What I'm more excited about is, of course I'm pulling for USA, and of course I want USA to win, but let's say USA loses, I can't wait for Isles Twitter to be like, oh, if Okposo was on the team, they would have won.
Kyle will have nothing to do with them winning or losing that game Friday.
Of course not, but not to Islanders Twitter.
Honestly, he would be sitting right next to Derek Stepan on the bench.
Possibly.
Possibly. With the way the USA team, I know we talked about it earlier in the segment, but I just like how USA's team has gelled, and they're all business this year.
Yep.
4 years ago, it was like, oh, all right, it was good to be there. Our young guys are just happy to be there. This year, you can tell all of them are pissed off, and there's only one goal to go for the gold.
Well,
and even your boy, we failed to even mention, your boy hasn't even done anything yet, and that's what's scary about it. It's only really been Kessel and Rensvidijk and all those players, but Patrick Kane hasn't really been Patrick Kane yet. And it's only a matter of time until he comes and steps up and lights up the lamp. And I think we're waiting for the best for last with him.
The U.S. knows they can play with Canada. It's that simple. I mean, this game Friday is going to be an NHL All-Star game with intensity. That's really what it's going to be. And I think the U.S. for the first time coming off of the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver, the U.S. now knows they can play with these guys. There is no longer that huge gap between nations in terms of hockey skill anymore. And the kind of game that the U.S. is playing now, in terms of their being extra physical, extra gritty, they're working super hard. I think it just fits into your point exactly that they know what's at stake and they know what logo they're wearing on the front of their jerseys. And like I said, they're not going to be intimidated stepping out on that ice on Friday afternoon. It's not going to be a case of that. And Jonathan Quick can match Price and goal. It's that simple, I mean, so it's going to be a good, tough hockey game. It's going to be a great hockey game. It's going to have a lot of anticipation, a lot of drama, a lot of excitement. But I could see the U.S. coming away with a 3-1, 3-2 type victory.
That would be nice. And that was going to be my next question. If you were Dan Bausma, you're going to go Quick or Ryan Miller?
It's not even a question.
Not even a question. I know it's not even a question, but they had to play him. But with the past with Ryan Miller and how good Quick's been playing, you always have to ask that question, especially on having two all-star college goalies.
Like I said, I think that the U.S.'s gelling and scoring depth right now favors them over Team Canada, and I think they come away with a 3-1, 3-2 victory.
But the scary thing is it's Canada, and they could drop a 5 spot at any moment, just with any of those goal lines.
Absolutely. It'll be tough for guys like Ryan Seaver and Kevin Shatton, and they're going to have their hands definitely cut out for them, no doubt.
I think it's going to be a fun game. It usually is USA-Canada.
I'm going to be in social blackout, so for the record, if I don't talk to you at all on Friday, during the day on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all that other jazz, I'm not going to talk to you until 8 o'clock that night.
No problem.
Because I don't have any internet or anything at work, so USA better win on Friday, so I don't waste any time.
No problem.
Oh, that would be the worst. Blackout. They just suck the whole game. they lose it like 5-0, and you go home. You're like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
But yeah, what? I know you mentioned Finland before. What is the key for Finland winning that game against Sweden?
Just keep on playing dirty, gritty.
Yeah, I mean, they have to kind of play that same type of rope-a-dope style that we saw Latvia play, and that we saw Slovenia play, and that we saw in the game today, with the 2-1 win by Canada. You have to kind of play that type of game when you seemingly are outmatched in terms of talent. And I think that's what Finland does. I think they sit back and they look for mistakes in that huge neutral zone with the extended ice. And if they play that type of game, they have a really good shot at upsetting Sweden. I really believe that.
Yeah, they have to really attack the net on Henrik Lundqvist. Well, when Lundqvist is off his game is when there's bodies in front of the net. I know that's any goalie, but Lundqvist especially, as long as they're pesting Lundqvist, getting shots on net from the point, Lundqvist can be had with that style of play, and Finland just has to find ways to get rushes to the net.
Yep.
And who's been leading Finland? Obviously,
Solani.
So other than Solani, who's been really the go-getter for Finland right now? So obviously we're not staying up until 3 a.m. since we all have jobs. But other than Solani, who's been really carrying the load?
Tuukka
Rask. So it's gonna be a premier goaltending.
Rask has been excellent in goal. You have Solani, you have Koivu, I believe, is on that team. That's actually a good question. I honestly, I've only seen a couple of their games, and it was unfortunately with the sound off, so I wasn't able. And I obviously don't know the numbers on the back of their jerseys, what they're wearing in Sochi. But the emotional leader obviously is Timu, and Rask in goal has been tremendous. So I think when you have those two qualities, Michael Granlund's been having a great tournament as well. He's a really young kid, a lot of talent. And then, they're not a fully functional NHL team. I think they're only about maybe, 40-60, even 30-70 in terms of NHL experience on that club. So those are the teams sometimes that, sneak up and get the job done. It's not always the big team, as we saw with Team Russia, with all that offensive talent. It was just a huge flame out for the Russians.
Well, that's what they do in Russia.
Absolutely.
They're lazy. And you saw, I was watching part of the Russia game today before I left for work, and you saw it. They were down 3-1, and yet they were just gliding.
Right.
And you see that coming out of when they play in the NHL, but you saw it more in the Olympics. So, of course, I expect them to lose.
Russia always duds out at the worst possible time, and the minute you have a big lead on them, they'll quit. And it proves every 4 years. And certain players to remain nameless. That happens every time that happens. If they don't have the comeback ability, and you saw it. You saw it today with Finland. They had them by the throat, and they slashed it.
Right.
They had no way of fighting back, and the rest was history. It's every Olympics, and it's really a shame. They have to be the biggest disappointment this whole Olympics, considering that the home team was gold or bust for them, and they didn't even get a medal. So right now, it's definitely big kick in the nuts for them as well.
It's all about heart.
That's why ultimately at the end, I think USA is going to find a way, especially on how close they were 4 years ago, and being huge underdogs against Canada. I think they finally are going through it, and I think Captain Clutch, Patrick Kane's going to find a way to do it. I think Friday is the gold medal game. If they get past that game, unless Lundqvist or Tuukka Rask stays on their heads, if they beat Canada, then you got to tip your hat to them.
Right.
My view is Final Four. With the Final Four that are left, it's going to be USA Sweden for the gold, with the USA shootout win on Sunday.
There's shootouts in gold medal games?
Shootouts in the entire Olympics.
I thought
one period of overtime and a shootout.
I thought it was sudden death after in the medal
sudden
games.
death, then shootout.
Okay, I was incorrected. Honestly, as long as USA is in the gold medal game, I don't care who they face. But I guess Sweden would be cool. But with the Zetterberg being hurt as well, that definitely puts a damper on things as well.
Sundin.
And Sundin's hurt as well. Yeah, good point, Andy.
Some people are saying Zetterberg's out for the season.
That's been one of those injuries you knew it wasn't going to be good in the Olympics, since he's been hurt all season long, and he's been pushing for the Olympics, strictly for the Olympics. And I think he finally got the final nail in the coffin.
You know what? We talked about it, I think it was last week or the week before when they announced Stamkos wasn't playing. We talked about it and how much respect I gained for him because of the fact that he said, okay, I've been pushing for the Olympics, but I have to think long-term of my NHL career.
Yeah. But then again, Stamkos is, what is he, 20, 21, 22 tops?
He's as old as Tavares. He's like 25. 24 maybe? Hey, Andy, how old's Stamkos?
Steven Stamkos?
He can't be any older than 23.
I think 23, isn't he?
Yeah, 22, 23.
Because he was drafted the year before Tavares.
Okay.
He's 24.
Okay. It's a little bit different from Henrik Zetterberg, world-class hockey player, who's won Stanley Cups, and I'm pretty sure he was on the gold medal team in 06. I wouldn't think he wouldn't have been. He's done everything, and Stamkos hasn't gotten that notoriety, even though we know how awesome he is. That's a little bit of a different situation. And you know Zetterberg's had this nagging injury since since December, even before December, in the NHL 24/7. You've seen him rehab all the time, and he finally gets back, and then he hurts himself. It's just one of those. You knew it wasn't good from the get-go, but he was giving everything he got to try to play, and unfortunately, that didn't happen for him. So.
All right, Andy, another Ranger player I got to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Girardi.
Yep.
What's going to happen with Dan Girardi?
That's the guy I can see being an issue. I think Dan Girardi, he's 29 years old. Again, first entering unrestricted free agency. He's probably going to look for in the $5 million range, $5.5 million, comparatively to what defensemen of his make in the league. Tremendous shot blocker, tremendous defensive presence, size, physical. Not overly physical, but he takes the body. That's the guy I can see potentially leaving the Rangers. And if the Islanders... I don't know, again, our defensive depth is so deep, and we have so many guys, and I know we're kind of counting on these guys to pan out and be good. There's really no guarantees, no matter what your pedigree is, until you actually get up into the league and play. But, how many more defensemen can we take on? Which is kind of why I don't see Girardi being in the Islanders' sights. But if I'm the Rangers, I'm definitely scared of losing him. Because, with all due respect, outside of Ryan McDonough, he's clearly their second-best defenseman, and they don't have much depth in the system as far as defense goes.
If you're Sather, are you going to look to move him by the deadline?
Yes.
With that fear?
Yes.
I don't see it happening though, unless it's a good.
I think there'll be a tremendous market for him.
There's going to be a team out there that needs that one solid defenseman away. They feel they're that one solid defenseman away that's willing to overpay.
That's the only way that's going to happen, because the way the Rangers have been playing, they've finally been clicking on all cylinders. It's the Rangers are missing that one little couple more pieces for them to make that playoff push. So it's a double-edged sword. I think they're going to keep him now, but at the end of the day, it's going to either be him or Callahan in the offseason, and I think the Rangers value Ryan Callahan more because they could always plug in another defenseman. Even though Girardi has been serviceable to them, but at the end of the day, Ryan Callahan is Ryan Callahan for the Rangers. He pretty much is the heart and soul of that team.
I agree.
It's going to be interesting, especially who the Islanders have for the first game back from the Olympic break.
The Toronto Maple Leafs.
Toronto Maple Leafs.
In Toronto or the Cali?
No, Coliseum.
3-game series, 3-game homestand.
Yeah, Toronto, New Jersey, and Florida.
Oh, that's nice.
2 day games, by the way, next weekend.
Okay.
1 o'clock Saturday, 3 o'clock Sunday.
Oh, What's your projection for the rest of the season?
I think it all depends on what we hear tomorrow out of Sochi. I think that if Tavares is out for an extended period of time, which would definitely include the rest of this season, you got Nielsen out for probably 2 more weeks at a minimum. Matt Martin I was told today, is suffering from a lower body injury. No more details other than it's a lower body injury. He did not skate today when the team resumed practice. I think it's going to be a rough go. I think you're going to see a lot of kids up. You're going to see a lot of growing pains. I wouldn't expect a better than 500 performance over the final 22, 23 games.
You know what's amazing, by the way? You said Matt Martin came out lower body injury. The Olympics comes right out about Tavares and it being a knee injury.
Yep.
If he got hurt in the NHL, it's a lower body injury.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when you're dealing with a superstar like Tavares and you see what happened, Babcock only said it's a knee, he's out for the Olympics. That's all Babcock said. But you're right. In the NHL, they probably wouldn't have even said the word knee.
And the Rangers coming off the break, they have they start off at home against the Blackhawks on the 22nd. Then they're at Philly, and then home against Boston, and home against the Maple Leafs. So the Rangers have a kind of tough stretch to start the quote-unquote second half of the remaining of the season as well. So it's definitely going to be interesting if AV is going to have the Rangers still flying on how good they were playing before the Olympic break. Even though a lot of players from the Rangers did make the trip over to Sochi, only 4 are remaining. So the players that are already hurt, other than Zuccarello, are flying back, and Hagelin's also in Sweden too. So most of the Ranger participants are still in the Olympic Games. So it's going to be interesting to see how long the Rangers are going to get their legs back for that. So it's going to be interesting for both Islanders and Rangers. I think the Rangers are going to steadily keep it going for the second seed for the Metropolitan Division, because obviously there's no one catching the Penguins unless the Penguins go on absolute cruise control. So I see the Rangers getting the second or third place, because the third place is interchangeable. Who's going to win the wild card in the Eastern Conference with that big cluster?
I would originally have said Detroit, just because of how much I revere Babcock in terms of being a head coach in the NHL and their winning tradition. But man, they've been really banged up. You talk about a team. I mean, we like to bemoan, the Islander injuries. The Red Wings have gotten absolutely decimated this year. And as great as Pavel Datsyuk is, if you're talking about being without Henrik Zetterberg, possibly for the rest of the season, I'm not so sure Detroit's going to have enough to hold on to that last spot. Right now, they're a point up on Columbus, Ottawa, and Washington by 1 point for that last spot. And Carolina's only 3 points out, along with New Jersey. I don't see New Jersey hanging in there. I just don't think they have enough depth in scoring to kind of hang out with those teams. Washington, I don't think, has the guts. Let me say that. I don't think they have the inner fortitude. So I'm looking at Ottawa. I've always liked Ottawa. Columbus, obviously, coming off of last year's run, and now this year they're having another good season at 29, 24, and 5. I'm gonna say Columbus returns to the postseason for that wild card spot. I think Toronto and Columbus get in there.
Andy, who's the biggest name that you think is going to be moved before the trade deadline or at the trade deadline?
Thomas Vanek. That's it. There's nobody bigger out there. There's nobody bigger that's going to be made available in terms of raw skill and talent than Thomas Vanek. He will be the most talked about person leading up to and inclusive of March 5th.
What day is the
March 5th?
March 5th.
Wednesday, March 5th.
Okay, so in 2 weeks.
Right. And the deadline is 3 p.m. Usually trades flow in till around 5. Some teams did kind of get their paperwork in right at the wire.
Yeah, due to league calls and things like that. You always hear about every league. You always hear about trades. Yeah.
That news won't be released to the media until after everything's made official. So sometimes you hear some stuff trickling in at 4 or 5 o'clock, but 3 o'clock is usually the end of the road.
Okay.
Paperwork's got to be in by 3.
Right.
That's basically how it goes.
Exactly.
If it's 3:01, you're out of luck.
That's right.
Well, hopefully they don't have
knowing the Islanders at 3:02, they'll make a Vanek trade.
the Elvis Dumerville from a couple last year's.
The fax machine won't work.
Oops. Yeah, then he signed with the Ravens. Dumerville was so mad with that.
Yeah, it's true. But I could see such an Islander thing, making a trade with a West Coast team, thinking that they're on their time. I could see that happening.
All right, you Debbie Downer.
Come on,
It's an
Islander thing.
You sound like Matt Stein.
I do sound like that. Come on, give Kayla credit today. She's looking for the #Isles Twitter. Suspension of the player who hit Tavares. Why was there no penalty called?
It was a good hit.
Come on, it's the Islanders. Let's complain about everything that happened with it.
I posted a column an hour after it happened on eyesoniles.com, which has a GIF of the hit. And so if you want to go watch it, go check out my column that I posted today over at eyesoniles.com, and you'll see there was nothing wrong with the hit. It looked pretty innocent.
That's usually what happens with like ACLs and things
Yeah,
like that.
that's what I mentioned.
Never, like, a guy could be walking in the middle of the street and his ACL could tear.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Like I mentioned before when AJ brought it up, it's always the most harmless injuries that it happens in football, it happens in baseball, it happens in every sport. You just got to thank God or whoever you believe in, you're healthy after each and every game kind of thing. Because at any moment, the most innocent thing, remember Stevie Brown for the Giants, for example, the turf monster got him on that one.
Darrell Rivas,
another one. It's just one of those freak things happens in sports. It's just a matter of time. It just sucks, but someone's knees just sometimes just give up on you, and it's really the scariest thing. Thank God for technology, because if it was like even 10 years ago, you don't know how long John Tavares would have been out for. We don't know now, but you know John Tavares can come back since it's such a I don't want to say easy thing to recuperate, but you see players in all sports to get back from it. And that's the one positive you take out of it. He'll go through his rehab next year. The Islanders will probably regroup, hopefully. They get some key players along with the young players. He'll be 100% by the time training camp, because you know how hard they'll.
I don't see training camp.
You don't see training camp?
I think it was Andy who also mentioned it today. You got a question about training camp.
Okay, well,
was
that's
it
fair
Andy,
enough.
were you the one who tweeted that out today?
What?
About questioning the return by training camp?
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's what they're saying it is, you definitely have to think that that training camp in September, which is only 7 months away, 6-7 months away, that's going to definitely be in question if it's as severe as they say it is.
Yeah, I was just thinking football in my head, since that's how it's always been the last couple of years.
Well, Stamkos broke a bone in his leg.
Yeah, well, that too. And just how hard all these athletes do train.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that it's impossible. I'm not saying that John can't make
of course.
I'm not saying that maybe the MRI comes back and once the swelling goes down, it's a little less than what they first thought. Maybe it's not as serious. Maybe it's 6 months and not 12. There's a lot of things that can go into the diagnosis when it's made tomorrow. So
hey, for all we know, it could be just a bruise.
And then don't forget, he's going to come home and have a second opinion as well from the Islander doctors. So there's a lot of things that can happen. So I think we just have to kind of wait it out and see what the announcement is tomorrow.
As long as he doesn't go to the Met doctors,
thinking the same thing.
As long as he doesn't go to the Met doctors, he should be fine. Hopefully they're not the same doctors as the Islanders, because we know a few teams just how that it goes. A few teams have the same doctor.
Well, our friend Vin is worried about David Wright because he checked off his checklist. Rogers got a collarbone, his star quarterback. Tavares possibly with the ACL now. So David Wright, wrap yourself in some bubble wrap.
Oh boy.
Eyes on Isles.
Eyes on Isles, Blue Line Station.
Blue Line Station, Dump and Chase podcast. Anything else that we have to plug for you?
No, that's it. Thank you very much, guys.
No
Thank
problem,
you for
Andy.
joining us, Andy.
Cheer up, Andy.
Come on, NHL's coming back next week.
Yes, it is, boys. Thanks again for the time. I really appreciate it. It's always fun talking to you guys.
No problem. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, Andy.
Have a great night.
SND Podcast is no way affiliated with, associated with, produced, or endorsed by the National Hockey League or any of its affiliates.
So welcome back to episode 65 of the S&D podcast. Once again, thank you to Andy and AJ for coming on and talk about Olympic hockey and unfortunately the loss of John Tavares. Hopefully, like we mentioned before, it's not as bad as it seems, but once he gets back to American soil, see what actually happens. But right now, it doesn't look good. Islander fans just got to keep their heads up. I know it's tough right now, especially on how bad the season's been so far, and they lose their best player. It's going to be interesting to see how they can just forget about it and just play hard for the rest of the season. They do have nothing to lose, kind of thing. Honestly, if there was a time, unfortunately, you don't want anybody hurt, obviously, but if there was a time for an injury to your best player, it would be now, kind of thing. Cause
now you're just trying to look at it glass half full.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
all you can at this point.
That's all you can.
It's all you can look at it. But the way I see it is we're going to see more minutes out of the guys like Strome. Like Andy was saying.
What I'm trying to say.
You'll see a couple other guys coming up. Brock Nelson will get more minutes. He's been playing very well. But, yeah, you're going to see minutes out of the younger guys, and it's going to be fun to watch the Bridgeport guys come up. A lot of these names you've been hearing about for years come up and play.
And as we've seen this year, so far the Bridgeport kids have been playing pretty well when they do get their name called. And they've been pretty good. DeHaan's been really good. He's shut up a lot of doubters as of late. It's really the Islanders' young core has to show up and say, all right, this is what we got drafted for. And it stinks that John Tavares is not going to be there, but we're still NHL caliber players, and we did get drafted in the top fives and in the high quality picks as well. So don't count us out. We're not just a one man team kind of thing. As for the Rangers, they're going to play. I think they're going to be playing as hot as they've played since the Olympic break. I know some players are going to be more tired, including Lundqvist, but that's why Cam Talbot's going to get a lot of playing time coming down the stretch after the next couple of games, and it's going to be huge. Hopefully, he's up to the test, because
especially with Lundqvist going into the medal round, in the medal round, and keep going.
Exactly. Regardless, he's going to be in a medal game. So it's going to be interesting for the Rangers. As for the Knicks and Nets, the Nets did make that move, like we mentioned with Keith earlier on in the segment. Right now, it's a good move for them. Granted, Jason Terry was pretty much just was rotting on the bench. Reggie Evans is
a cheerleader.
Yeah, he was rotting on the bench essentially, and Reggie Evans is a good, solid, good player. But it was a good trade for the Nets, and he's gonna be under the Nets for another year. So he's not having the greatest years this year, but he's not a bad player. As for the Knicks, we should see what happens tomorrow at 3 p.m. with the trade deadline. Keith had a lot of good theories and situations that the Knicks should do or shouldn't do. Well, it's gonna be interesting which Knick gets traded and who the Knicks actually get. There's a lot of stupid rumors, so don't believe them. God knows there's a lot of it's sports and ESPN feeding the fuel. So, with that being said, thanks for listening this week.
Yes.
Enjoy USA hockey. Go USA.
USA all the way.
USA all the way.
We're not playing Trinidad. Like in D2 Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, too bad. The goalie. Hopefully, we're playing Iceland. Our arch nemesis, Iceland.
Bigger, and stronger, and have more facial hair.
Yeah,
like Aberman said.
Okay. And thanks again to Keith Black. You can follow him on the real K Black 25 on Twitter.
Also, Andy at Tasman19 and AJ at _Graz24. Also, don't forget. Number Fire. Check that out. Keith's writing for Blue Line Station, Eyes on Isles, Dump and Chase podcast.
And they're not posting up a show this week. Next week, when the NHL's back, we actually have Jigs McDonald. Jugs. I don't know where my mind's at right now. It's been a long show. Anyway, have a good rest of the week. Enjoy your hockey. Enjoy your basketball. And have a good one.
Go USA.